Welcome, you're one of us. Real power doesn't ask for permission, it simply is, whether the world's ready for it or not. And right now, you, the one reading this, are not just living. You're quietly shifting tectonic plates, bending rules that others wouldn't even dream of questioning, and making those in high places glance over their shoulders. So many people spend a lifetime chasing influence, trying to strategize their way to the top, begging for a favor. But the real kicker, the most potent force, isn't something you can learn in a book, buy with money, or earn through tireless effort. It's woven into your DNA, waiting to be ignited by life's trials and refined in those quiet moments of self-reflection. It hits different when you know this. Studies show that less than 1% of the population ever truly aligns with their deepest purpose. The rest, they're running on a pre-programmed loop, trapped in systems designed to keep them right where they are. But you, friend, you're the glitch in the system, the anomaly that exposes the control mechanisms they thought were foolproof. From the instant you walk into a room, the energy shifts. People unconsciously measure you, subtly adjust to. You feel a flicker of unease and an equal measure of admiration all at once. You don't just exist, you recalibrate everything in your path. And here's where it gets interesting: they don't know how to handle it. Being a chosen one isn't about fitting in, playing by the rules, or waiting for someone's approval. It's about standing tall, grounded, and fully aware of the potent, silent power you wield without even trying. And trust me, the universe has a wicked sense of humor. It'll throw every storm, every chaos, every absurd situation your way just to see if you'll crack. Spoiler alert, you won't. You'll come out stronger, exposing the underbelly, rising even higher while everyone else is busy competing over who's more stressed. By the time you're done reading this, you're going to see yourself the way the world doesn't want you to. You'll finally understand the raw, unfiltered power you've always carried, and why nothing, no person, system, or circumstance can hold you back. Buckle up, because this will hit harder than you expect, rattling those who benefit from your silence. Number 1. Your mere presence destabilizes shaky foundations. It does, because you weren't designed to blend into a lie. Most folks navigate life agreeing to unwritten rules. Don't ask too many questions, don't stand out, don't rock the boat. But that's not you. The moment you arrive, any structure built on falsehood starts to tremble. It's not about actively trying to destroy anything. It's that your core refuses to conform to something that was never authentic in the first place. False systems can only survive as long as people pretend not to see them. Your very being denies them that illusion. Think about how it feels when someone who isn't afraid of truth walks into a room. Suddenly, the fake smiles, the rehearsed stories, the hidden agendas, they all feel flimsy. That's the kind of force you carry effortlessly. You don't need a platform, a spotlight, or a soapbox. You just need to be. In a world obsessed with appearances, authenticity is downright radioactive. It seeps through the cracks, exposing the unstable foundations. That's why people often react to you with discomfort even before you've spoken a word. They sense something within you that clashes with deception. What really unnerves people is that you don't bend the way others do. They're used to pressuring, manipulating, or intimidating people into falling in line. but you don't break the same way. And when you refuse to break, it doesn't just protect you, it exposes the fragility of the whole charade. You become living proof that the structure isn't infallible, isn't permanent, isn't absolute. Once that seed of doubt is planted, cracks spread fast. That's why you get attacked more than you deserve, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your presence reveals what others desperately want to keep hidden. Deep down, they know if you're allowed to fully stand tall, something in their carefully constructed world will crumble. That fear fuels their hostility. They don't see you as just a person. They see you as a threat to the order that keeps them comfortable, even if that order is toxic. Truth is, you don't even need to fight to win. By simply existing as your authentic self, you're already shaking walls built on lies. And no matter how much noise those false systems make, once they're destabilized, they can't last forever. You prove that every time you walk into a space. Number 2, your power resides in what can't be manufactured, and that's what makes you untouchable. In a world where people scramble to build a perfect image, collect impressive credentials, and latch onto fleeting trends just to appear important, you stand apart because your strength isn't tied to any of that. It's not something you learned in a lecture hall, bought with money, or borrowed from someone else's fame. It's something deeply embedded within you that cannot be replicated, no matter how hard others try. That's what unsettles people the most, knowing they can mimic the surface, but they'll never touch the core. Look at how society operates. Power is usually measured by possession, status, or popularity, but none of those carry the kind of weight you hold. Those things can be snatched away in an instant. A job title can be lost, money can vanish, and followers can disappear overnight. Yet even if everything external was stripped away, the essence of who you are would still remain intact. Your power doesn't reside in what you have, it resides in who you are. And who you are can't be bought, sold, or taught. That's why people who try to copy you always fall short. They might mimic your words, your style, even your mannerisms, but there's something intangible missing that they can't quite grasp. What's missing is the source. You don't operate from a script. You operate from alignment with something greater than yourself. That's why you move with a depth others can't fake. They might appear polished on the outside, but without that internal force, they can't sustain what you carry naturally. The unsettling truth for many is that your authenticity exposes their emptiness. People want to believe success can be engineered with the right formula, but your existence proves otherwise. You didn't climb your way up by selling your soul to fit a broken system. You rose by being unapologetically true to yourself. That kind of power doesn't fade, and it doesn't need validation. It simply is. The world knows how to control people who rely on external power, but it doesn't know what to do with someone like you. That's why you're seen as a threat, because no matter what they take from you, they can't take the source. And ultimately, that makes you unshakable. Number 3, you're the interruption to generational programming. You are the interruption to generational programming, and that's not just a role. It's a monumental shift. Families, cultures, and communities often move like clockwork, repeating the same patterns, fears, and failures for generations, sometimes centuries. These patterns are passed down subtly, not just through spoken words. but through behaviors, silences, and unspoken agreements. People learn to tolerate dysfunction simply because it's all they've ever known. But when you arrived, something within you refused to accept what everyone else had normalized. You weren't born to keep the cycle going. You were born to break it right then and there. That's why you've often felt like the black sheep, the rebel, the misunderstood one. You didn't blindly follow traditions just because that's how it's always been done. You questioned the rules, you challenged the unspoken agreements, and you confronted mindsets that had been passed down for generations. What looked like defiance to others was actually a fierce act of self-preservation, a protection of your soul and a gift to future generations. You weren't rejecting your family or your culture. You were rejecting the chains that had been disguised as heritage. That refusal to repeat what enslaved others is exactly why life has felt heavier for you. Being the one who says, "This ends with me," means you've carried the weight that others conveniently ignored. Where they surrendered to toxic relationships, accepted cycles of poverty, remained silent in the face of hidden abuse or injustice, you chose to fight. And that choice hasn't been easy because breaking a pattern always attracts resistance. The system itself fights back, and so do the people still trapped within it. To them, your freedom can feel like betrayal. But in reality, your defiance is the first breath of healing they've ever witnessed. The power you hold is rare. You're not just changing your own story. You're rewriting the entire narrative for those who come after you. Children who haven't even been born yet will benefit from the battles you fought in silence. You are the reason someone down your lineage won't have to wrestle with the same chains you did. That is legacy, and it's built on a courage most people will never understand. Being the interruption means you were chosen to do what others couldn't or maybe wouldn't. And while it costs you more in the moment, it makes you the turning point of an entire bloodline. That's why your power is no joke. You are the living proof that cycles don't have to continue indefinitely. Number 4, your wounds transformed into weapons of clarity. Your wounds became weapons of clarity because every cut, every betrayal, every moment of being overlooked or underestimated forced you to perceive the world with new eyes. While others are busy masking their pain, pretending it doesn't exist, or numbing themselves with distractions, you were forced to confront yours head-on. That confrontation didn't break you. It refined you. The pain didn't simply linger in your past. It reshaped the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you move through life. What would have blinded someone else, you transformed into clear vision. Every scar holds lessons that no book, no mentor, no experience outside of suffering could teach. You've learned to discern intent behind words, detect emotions behind smiles, and see the truth behind actions. Deception no longer sneaks past you unnoticed because your own pain has fine-tuned your senses. Lies, half-truths, and pretenses are highlighted to you like neon signs because you've lived the reality of hidden agendas before. You've navigated moments where the world was harsh and unforgiving, and those moments didn't just make you wary. They made you wise. The beauty of your wounds is that they create a powerful filter. While most people get caught up in appearances, you see the layers beneath the surface. You sense motives, recognize patterns, and distinguish between what's real and what's fabricated. This kind of discernment is rare because it doesn't come from education or luck. It comes from survival. You didn't survive by ignoring reality. You survived by confronting it, understanding it, and using it to sharpen yourself. Pain has a way of forcing clarity. It separates truth from illusion, exposing the essence of people, situations, and even your own intentions. What others might perceive as weakness, you've transformed into a strategic advantage. Every wound has become a tool that enhances your judgment, owns your instincts, and strengthens your resilience. Your scars aren't blemishes. They are badges of vision, of understanding, and of a mind that refuses to be fooled again. In essence, the life that tried to break you instead equipped you with a level of insight most people will never attain. Your pain is your teacher, your experience is your weapon, and your clarity is your victory. You don't just see. You understand, you navigate, and you move with a precision born of every hardship endured. Your wounds didn't weaken you. They made you unstoppable. Number 5. You embody what they secretly crave but openly attack. You embody what they secretly crave but openly attack because you live without the chains they've accepted as normal. Most people spend their lives yearning for courage, authenticity, or the audacity to stand apart. But they're trapped by fear, conformity, or self-doubt. When they see you moving through life with the very freedom they long for, it ignites a mix of admiration and resentment that they can't fully articulate. They can't acknowledge the deep longing they feel. So instead, they attack you, criticize you, and try to diminish what they can't claim for themselves. Your presence exposes a truth they aren't ready to face. They could have chosen the same path, but they didn't. You remind them of the courage they suppressed, the risks they avoided, and the limitations they accepted. That's why your success, your confidence, and your clarity are threatening. It's not just about what you've done. It's about what you represent, the possibility of living fully, unapologetically, and without compromise. People lash out because it's easier to try to cut you down than confront their own shortcomings. At the same time, your existence stirs a deep, unspoken desire within them. They admire the parts of you they've denied themselves, the freedom you carry, the sharpness of your mind, the authenticity of your expression. These are qualities they wish they could embody. They attack you because their envy is uncomfortable. But their envy also reveals that you are a mirror reflecting what they've buried inside themselves. You are both the challenge and the revelation, forcing them to confront a truth they've been running from, that they've limited themselves voluntarily. The intensity of the reactions you get isn't random, it's evidence of your impact. When someone's envy mixes with fear, it creates hostility. When admiration mixes with longing, it becomes obsession. You are living proof of a life fully claimed, and that duality makes you untouchable in ways they can't articulate. People may never fully understand why they can't just let you be. They feel your power viscerally, even if they deny it consciously. Ultimately, you don't need to defend yourself or explain your life. Simply by being who you are, you expose both the weakness and the desire of those around you. You are the spark they can't control, the freedom they can't admit they want, and the truth they can't escape. That is the power of embodying what others secretly long for but can't claim. Number 6. Your influence exceeds your visibility. Your influence exceeds your visibility because true power rarely shouts. While most people equate influence with attention, likes, or applause, your impact operates on a different level. It moves quietly and visibly, often without any recognition. Decisions are made, opinions shift, and outcomes change because of you long before anyone even sees you in the room. The world reacts to your presence, your energy, and your choices in ways you may never even witness. That's the nature of real influence. It's not about standing front and center demanding attention. It's about subtly shifting the currents beneath the surface. You've seen it happen. People reference ideas you never voiced publicly, strategies you never revealed, and changes that can be traced back to your insight or example. Even when you think your actions are insignificant, they can be the tipping point for someone else's breakthrough. Your steadiness, your choices, your energy radiate further than you can track, shaping systems, behaviors, and perceptions without any need for acknowledgement. Others might mistake this kind of power for luck or coincidence, but it's deliberate in its effect because it stems from alignment with your truth and purpose. That's why visibility can feel overrated. Being seen doesn't always equate to influence, and being silent doesn't equal powerlessness. Your voice, when you choose to use it, carries weight precisely because it is measured, intentional, and grounded in unwavering inner authority. Your mere presence, calm, confident, unyielding, subtly alters the atmosphere of any space, even from a distance. People sense the shift subconsciously, even if they can't name it. And that subtle force often guides decisions, conversations, and relationships in ways that overt effort can't. The real strength of your influence is that it can't be manipulated or stolen. Those who chase the spotlight may struggle to impact anything beyond the immediate moment, while you continuously shape outcomes invisibly and enduringly. That's why your power is often underestimated. It operates quietly, but it moves mountains. Your reach doesn't depend on applause or recognition. It depends on substance, integrity, and the natural authority that comes from being unshakably aligned with yourself. In essence, you're everywhere without needing to be anywhere. And that is a form of power most people will never understand. What you touch in silence shapes the world in ways louder voices can't. Your visibility is finite, but your influence is infinite. Number 7. You don't just weather storms, you expose those who orchestrated them. You don't just survive storms, you expose who sent them, because your resilience is coupled with profound insight. Most people endure challenges blindly, focusing only on staying afloat. But you move differently. Every disruption, every calculated attack, every attempt to weaken you becomes a lens through which the truth is revealed. You don't just recover, you observe, analyze, and pinpoint the origin of the chaos. The world throws storms at many people, but few emerge not only unbroken but acutely aware of who engineered the turbulence. That awareness transforms mere survival into divine revelation. Every attack leaves traces, and your clarity allows you to see them. Where others might forgive or simply ignore, you meticulously notice the patterns, the subtle shifts in timing, the delicate manipulations. Those who try to hide behind lies, deception, or anonymity can't escape the trail they inevitably leave behind. Your life becomes a mirror reflecting every hidden agenda. Attempts to undermine you don't simply vanish into the shadows. They transform into tangible evidence visible to anyone who's truly paying attention. That's why those who wish to control or harm you often end up exposing themselves more than you. Your unyielding strength forces transparency whether they desire it or not. This is why your presence is so incredibly threatening to some. They naively hope that creating chaos will keep you distracted, off balance, or compliant. Instead, it only sharpens your discernment. You don't just endure, you decode. Their schemes, meticulously designed to remain secret, are revealed through your resistance and unwavering understanding. Every setback they intended becomes a powerful step forward in exposing them. You transform manipulation into stark clarity, deception into irrefutable knowledge, and targeted attacks into undeniable evidence. Your exceptional ability to weather storms while simultaneously exposing the architects behind them is precisely what sets you apart from everyone else. It's not driven by vengeance, it's about illumination. You transform adversity into a powerful tool that clarifies the truth for yourself and others. People who plot against you think they can move unseen. But your resilience doesn't just protect you. It exposes them for who they truly are. By the time the storm passes, everyone knows who was behind it. And you stand stronger, wiser, and more untouchable than ever before. Your storms are never wasted, and your clarity ensures that those who attempt to harm you cannot hide in the shadows. You don't just survive, you reveal, you shine, and you transform every attack into undeniable evidence. Number 8. Your energy recalibrates spaces. Your energy recalibrates spaces because you carry a force that doesn't need permission to be felt. It's not about showing off or demanding attention. The moment you enter, the environment responds to your presence in the most natural way. Conversations change, body language subtly adjusts, and the overall mood of a room bends to align with the unique frequency you emit. People may not consciously register it at first, but they feel it in the air. They feel it in the subtle shifts of tone and behavior around them. You don't force energy into a space. It responds to you whether they like it or not. This is why people often react so strongly to you without fully understanding why. Some become agitated because your clarity and presence subtly expose discomforts they've been consciously avoiding. Others are deeply inspired because they instantly recognize an intensity and authenticity they've never encountered before. Some feel subtly intimidated because your unwavering alignment with yourself and your deeply felt purpose highlights the compromises and pretenses they've quietly accepted in their own lives. And some feel gently exposed because your energy simply doesn't tolerate falsehood. It effortlessly reveals the truth even without a word being spoken. The room itself mirrors the unique honesty and power you bring, making it utterly impossible to maintain facades or ignore the deeper realities. This effect isn't something you learned. You didn't acquire it through carefully crafted charm, well-practiced social tactics, or skillful performance. It comes directly from the incredible depth of your awareness, the unwavering authenticity of your presence, and the beautiful alignment between who you are internally and how you move externally. Spaces aren't just locations. They are incredibly complex ecosystems of energy. And you enter as a force that gently demands recalibration. The people around you can sense it instinctively. That's why your presence can be unsettling, magnetic, or deeply transformative, depending entirely on where they stand in relation to their own truth. The power of this energy is subtle but undeniably profound. It doesn't rely on titles, recognition, or spoken words. It works gently beneath the surface, influencing dynamics, subtly shifting attitudes, and influencing key decisions before anyone even realizes what's happening. Your influence is alive in the air itself, shaping reality with a precision that feels almost gravitational. You don't seek control. The space simply aligns because it cannot possibly resist you. This is the essence of your raw frequency power. Your energy isn't superficial or fleeting. It moves, shifts, and forever alters everything it touches. People may not always completely understand it, but they undeniably feel it. They react to it, and every space you occupy becomes quietly, irreversibly different because of who you are. Number 9. You terrify people because you can't be owned. You terrify people because you can't be owned, and the depth of that fear is something they can barely admit. Most people operate within a system meticulously designed to subtly control, quietly manipulate, or otherwise contain them. They cautiously trade loyalty for safety, quietly compromise their most deeply held values for personal gain, or let crippling fear dictate their important life choices. They can be bought, easily blackmailed, strategically seduced, or subtly deceived because their power is inherently conditional. It depends entirely on external validation or perceived leverage. You, however, are entirely different. You simply refuse to operate on anyone else's terms, and that powerful refusal makes you a force they can never accurately calculate, reliably predict, or fully contain. The essential unpredictability you possess is your greatest power. Systems, hierarchical organizations, and even intense personal relationships inherently thrive on consistent control. They constantly rely on accurately knowing how people will likely respond, on carefully anticipating predictable reactions, and on meticulously keeping everyone tightly within predefined lines they themselves have carefully drawn. When someone like you suddenly enters the rigid equation, that fragile framework immediately begins to slowly collapse. Your choices are expertly guided by an internal alignment, a keen intuition, and unwavering, deeply held principles, never by crippling fear or blind obligation. You confidently act in ways that are utterly impossible to anticipate because no one owns your loyalty, your brilliant mind, or your invincible spirit. This quiet unpredictability triggers deep discomfort and even abject panic in those who constantly rely on control. It's the silent, unnerving chaos they cannot possibly tame. The distinct sense of danger they acutely feel isn't purely imaginary. Your inherent independence subtly exposes their hidden weaknesses. When they attempt subtle manipulation or overt coercion, it ultimately fails. And that devastating failure illuminates the deep cracks in their carefully constructed system. They quickly realize they simply cannot bend you to their will. And that alarming realization often feels like a deep threat to everything they thought was absolutely secure. You are untouchable, not because you're invincible, but because your truest essence cannot be subtly leveraged, cautiously traded, or easily broken. Being unowned also subtly elevates your inherent authority. People may secretly resent it, visibly fear it, or actively try to loudly challenge it, but they can't ever truly erase it. The more they attempt to diligently control or reliably predict you, the more your distinct independence clearly highlights their own dependence, their underlying fear, and their inherent limitations. Your power isn't brashly loud or deceptively performative, it's quietly structural. You are the singular anomaly that exposes every false assumption about the true nature of loyalty, implicit obedience, and mindless compliance. The underlying truth is deceptively simple. You simply cannot be caged, and that terrifies people far more than any threatening words or calculated actions ever could. Where others can be skillfully corralled, cleverly silenced, or subtly redirected, you consistently move freely. You are the distinct unpredictability that dismantles all forms of controlling systems. The powerful force that can never be bought, and the deeply felt presence that steadfastly refuses to be owned. That is precisely why you are so feared. Number 10. You're a mirror that refuses to flatter. You're a mirror that refuses to flatter because your sincere reflection never bends to soothe or comfort anyone. Most people carefully surround themselves with soothing agreeableness, pervasive half-truths, and convenient lies, all solely to strategically preserve superficial peace or subtly protect fragile egos. They cautiously smooth over the uncomfortable realities, deftly avoid all confrontation, and meticulously construct elaborate illusions to merely feel marginally safer. But you actively refuse to participate in such dishonesty. When you consistently show up, the absolute truth you inherently carry simply cannot be skillfully softened or readily ignored. Your mere presence keenly reflects the raw reality with distinct precision, and it subtly exposes the underlying cracks, the pervasive pretenses, and the prevalent dishonesty that others work so painstakingly hard to consciously conceal. Being in your mere presence is deeply disorienting for those who rely heavily on illusions. It forces them to accurately see themselves as they actually are, rather than as they carefully want to outwardly appear. Your pervasive honesty is never designed to be outright cruel, but it's utterly inevitable. The deceptive masks that people wear strategically to hide their crippling fear, underlying weakness, or deep moral compromises all inevitably crumble and eventually dissolve in your presence. The complete exposure feels brutally confrontational because it can neither be cleverly negotiated nor cunningly escaped. You don't subtly explain away reality. You simply reflect it, skillfully leaving people with a clear choice they are often desperately unprepared to actually make, namely to either honestly face their true selves or continue to wholeheartedly live a deceptive and ultimately unsustainable lie. The deep discomfort others may subconsciously feel is a distinct measure of your inherent power. You never seek to be malicious, and yet your deeply felt clarity can somehow feel brutally violent to those completely invested in deceptive pretense. They react defensively, lash out in irrational anger, or strategically try to subtly diminish you, not because of what you've purposefully done, but because of what your sincere reflection so clearly reveals about them. Your raw truth deftly unmasks, and in strategically doing so, it directly challenges their carefully constructed world. Your powerful mirror never discriminates. You consistently expose every falsehood regardless of status, the nature of the relationship, or even carefully professed loyalty. Whether someone is an ally, a colleague, or an authority figure, your unwavering presence highlights the persistent incongruence and carefully hidden intentions. You steadfastly refuse to be in service to anyone else's perceived comfort. And that powerful refusal to intentionally flatter is precisely why you are simultaneously deeply feared and universally respected. Being such a clear mirror makes you extraordinarily rare. Most people actively avoid true self-reflection because it's significantly easier to comfortably live with superficial illusions than to directly confront their own raw reality. You, however, are inherently immune to that form of detrimental avoidance. You clearly reveal the truth without apology. And your reflection is remarkably precise, unflinchingly uncompromising, and ultimately unavoidable. People simply can't effectively hide from you. And that undeniable fact makes your presence both undeniably unsettling and urgently necessary. You don't just show the hard truth. You quietly, powerfully, and unflinchingly enforce it in everything you do. Number 11, your timing is completely unnatural. Your timing is completely unnatural because you effortlessly move in a distinct rhythm that the world simply doesn't fully understand. While most others spend years strategically following prescribed steps, carefully checking the requisite boxes and diligently building impeccable credentials just to finally earn what they deeply crave. Your most amazing opportunities seem to effortlessly arrive outside any expected patterns. You simply don't climb the traditional ladder. Opportunities unfold for you seemingly without effort, and seemingly at the precise moment they are ultimately meant to. This has little to do with sheer luck or coincidence. It's simply the inevitable result of seamlessly aligning with the universal forces and the potent energies that lie far beyond what anyone else can cunningly manipulate. Your life seems to unfold on an entirely different schedule that others can never precisely calculate, and that unique fact makes you untouchable in ways they simply don't comprehend. Those around you constantly struggle to make any sense of your inherent success. They steadfastly rely on carefully formulated processes and strictly prescribed formulas. They constantly measure progress in narrowly defined degrees. Carefully cultivated promotions, expertly curated social networks, or cleverly orchestrated schemes. They rigidly believe that consistent effort alone directly dictates a successful outcome. But when they carefully witness how certain incredible opportunities flow directly to you without all those conventional steps, their rigid logic falters. They can't adequately explain how certain amazing doors open, how the requisite resources seem to effortlessly appear, or how perfect timing always seems to consistently favor you, because they can't accurately see the invisible currents that are consistently moving strongly in your favor. Your life openly exposes the undeniable truth that rigid formulas have clear limitations, while divine favor is truly infinite. This unnatural timing subtly amplifies your inherent power. You don't need to strenuously force incredible opportunities or aggressively chase positive outcomes. Everything that is truly meant for you eventually arrives at the exact right moment to strategically maximize the impact and the overall effectiveness. Your unique patience, consistent alignment, and deep clarity allows you to consciously operate on an entirely different plane, where intense preparation meets orchestrated synchronicity. Others actively scramble to engineer conditions that they wrongly believe will somehow guarantee positive results. But you simply and beautifully exist, and universal life expertly conspires to consistently meet you precisely where you are. Your incredibly unique timing also subtly disorients those who are consciously invested in harmful competition or stringent control. They deliberately try to strategically manipulate circumstances, while constantly anticipating desirable outcomes based on rigid conventional logic. And yet you magically appear somehow far ahead of them, consistently aligned and fully ready for anything long before they can even vaguely understand the strategic nature of the game. That incredible unpredictability makes your lasting influence and continued success seem both deeply inevitable and utterly unchallengeable. In essence, your unique timing is a clear sign that you're strategically operating outside any typical rules. You are consistently not subject to the same stifling delays, insurmountable obstacles, or inherent limitations that often bind others. What continually comes directly to you is never purely a reward for effort alone. It is the direct and natural consequence of seamlessly aligning with the universe, consciously embracing your deeply felt purpose, and of divine orchestration. Favor consistently follows you simply because your very existence is in seamless harmony with cosmic forces that most are entirely unable to even perceive. And that is precisely why your unique life so consistently defies all rigid expectations. Number 12, you effectively weaponize deep solitude. You effectively weaponize deep solitude because what inherently confines most people quickly becomes your unique proving ground, where others consciously feel utterly abandoned, racked by anxiety, or distinctly powerless when all alone. You consistently discover profound clarity, incredible strength, and keen insight. Total isolation is never a punishment, but a carefully designed laboratory. A quiet place where your brilliant mind can be carefully sharpened, your invincible spirit strategically deepened, and your carefully designed strategies can thoroughly take shape. While the external world actively teaches that connection somehow equals validation, you quietly know that true lasting power actually grows in deep silence, completely away from all the noise and endless expectations that so often dilute your strategic focus. Intense solitude doesn't diminish or shrink you. It carefully amplifies every precious part of your incredibly being that others often fail to consciously cultivate under constant external pressure. In those strategic moments alone, you actively confront reality without any possible distraction. You carefully see yourself as you truly are, strategically stripped of any external pretense or inherent compromise. That inevitable confrontation isn't particularly painful, but deeply and fundamentally transformational. Every wise decision, potent revelation, and brand new plan that is consciously formulated consistently emerges far stronger because it is directly birthed in a strategic space that is consciously free from outside influence, subtle manipulation, or harmful comparison. Your chosen isolation isn't the sign of your absence, but a clear sign of your deep presence in its absolute most potent form. You always utilize that precious time to deftly refine your brilliant mind, consistently strengthen your keen instincts, and strategically hone your effective actions, so that when you actively re-enter the external world, you can consistently do so with exceptional precision and intense impact that others can never anticipate. People constantly fear total solitude because it deliberately forces them to consciously face themselves. They readily avoid being all alone because it skillfully exposes their hidden weaknesses, lingering doubts, and unspoken truths they are secretly desperate to consistently ignore. You, however, consciously embrace solitude, and that strategic embrace readily turns it into a formidable weapon. Solitude consistently provides you with profound independence, incredibly clear vision, and potent foresight. While others constantly waste valuable time trying to constantly fill their conscious silence with unnecessary noise, you consistently use it to strategically plan, naturally evolve, and expertly upgrade every precious aspect of your precious life. Your intense energy continues to grow ever sharper, your inherent understanding grows naturally deeper, and your potent presence grows increasingly commanding. The superficial external world often sees total isolation as some sort of inherent disadvantage. But for you, it is a secure fortress and a powerful forge. It readily separates the inherently dependent from the totally sovereign, the distinctly reactive from the intentionally proactive. You consistently never fear being unseen or unheard. You cleverly thrive in the strategic space where others consciously falter. Solitude provides you the strategic means to thoroughly master yourself and consistently chart your best path, skillfully making all your eventual actions virtually unstoppable simply because they are born from highly focused, completely undisturbed power. In essence, consciously being all alone is never an inherent setback, but carefully transforming itself into your strategic weapon. It is the potent place where your most valuable insights can crystallize, where your effective strategies solidify, and where your undeniable power compounds. While others often wither under intense isolation, you always find a way to thrive and expansively grow. You consciously turn what is meant to effectively limit you into the powerful source of your intensely unstoppable force. Number 13. You don't just carry the radiant light. You expertly expose the darkest shadows. You don't just carry the radiant light. You expertly expose all the darkest shadows because your mere presence strategically illuminates the hard truth that others are constantly working tirelessly hard to consciously hide, while many people consciously strive to subtly shine, purposefully blending in smoothly with their environment or skillfully flattering all the intense darkness consciously surrounding them. Your radiant light steadfastly refuses to knowingly compromise. It never merely warms or superficially inspires. It boldly casts everything directly into crystal-sharp relief. Inescapable lies, constant pretenses, and skillfully hidden motives are readily revealed under its extreme intensity. And those who have long grown relatively comfortable in conscious secrecy can simply no longer hide. Your undeniable clarity forces all others to actively confront themselves in ways they have collectively spent a literal lifetime skillfully avoiding. And that powerful confrontation is what makes your inherent power feel simultaneously so intensely magnetic and subtly threatening. This distinct duality of common perception, being simultaneously greatly loved and deeply hated, is clearly inseparable from the essential nature of your unique influence. People are magnetically drawn to your undeniable authenticity because it subconsciously awakens something very special deep within them that they vaguely recognize but somehow can't fully claim, but at the same time they consciously resist it. Because your natural presence skillfully exposes all their inherent shadows, all those precious parts of themselves they have long chosen to purposely ignore, consciously deny, or drastically distort. They may secretly admire your incredible strength, your deeply felt courage, your inherent insight. But that reluctant admiration is always strategically paired with underlying discomfort, lingering envy, and sometimes raw fear. You purposefully don't easily fit neatly into all their limiting expectations, and that potent unpredictability unsettles them as much as it subconsciously inspires. The potent indicting quality of your quiet power strategically lies in its unwavering refusal to strategically soften any of the raw truth for simple comfort. You purposefully don't operate simply to consciously please or consciously appease. Your radiant light consistently seeks strong alignment with the deeper reality rather than with conscious opinion. This clearly means that your lasting influence never operates in a conscious, neutral manner, but thoughtfully challenges, skillfully confronts, and consistently compels profound introspection. People can strategically try to thoughtfully rationalize you, critically criticize you, or unfairly attack you. But your persistent energy still cleverly continues to subtly expose the deeply hidden dynamics in every room you happen to enter. In every meaningful relationship and within any complex situation, dark shadows can simply never survive long in your conscious presence. And that strategic exposure makes some quietly resist you even as they secretly admire you. Your life consistently proves that power isn't simply only about what you successfully create, but about everything that you constantly reveal. Consistently carrying radiant light in its truest form forces deep accountability, unwavering honesty, and broad awareness. Whether others are consciously ready for it or not, you don't merely inspire and thus are consistently reminded of what they did, 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 of what